What if I told you that some of the foods people eat every single day may be helping create the exact conditions cancer loves? Not because food directly causes cancer every time, not because one meal destroys your health, but because day after day, year after year, certain foods can quietly push your body toward more inflammation, more blood sugar spikes, more hormonal disruption, and more cellular stress. And those are the kinds of conditions abnormal cells thrive in. That is the part many people miss. When most people think about cancer, they think about genetics, they think about family history, they think about bad luck. And yes, those things matter. They matter a lot, but they are not the full story. Because cancer is far more common than many people realize. Around 40% of people will be diagnosed with cancer at some point in their lifetime. That number alone should make all of us pay attention. But here is the other side of the story. A large share of cancer cases may be preventable. Not all, but many. And that means your daily habits matter. Your environment matters. Your metabolism matters. Your inflammation level matters. Your hormones matter. And one of the strongest things shaping all of that is the food you eat every day. So in this video, we're going to break down the foods and food patterns that may increase cancer risk, not with fear, but with understanding. I want to show you how these foods affect the internal environment of the body, why that matters, and what simple shifts can help put your body in a safer direction. And we're also going to talk about red meat, because that topic gets a lot of attention and a lot of confusion. Some people act like red meat is poison. Others say it is totally harmless. The truth sits in the middle, and you need the full picture, not headlines. Let's start with one of the biggest problems in the modern diet: sugary drinks. Most people already know soda is not great for them, but the issue goes beyond soda. We're also talking about energy drinks, sweetened coffee drinks, boba teas, flavored drinks, and even fruit juice. Yes, even fruit juice. The reason these drinks are such a problem is simple. They deliver a huge amount of sugar into your bloodstream fast. There's no fiber to slow things down. There's little fullness. Your body absorbs the sugar quickly, your blood sugar rises quickly, and your hormones respond quickly. And this matters because cancer is not only a genetic disease, it is also deeply tied to metabolism. Many cancer cells burn fuel in a strange way. Instead of using oxygen efficiently like healthy cells often do, many cancer cells rely heavily on glucose and burn through it fast. This is part of what scientists call the Warburg effect. In simple terms, many cancer cells love easy fuel, and glucose is one of their favorites. But sugar does something else too. It pushes insulin higher. It also raises a hormone called IGF-1. These hormones help regulate blood sugar, but they also send growth signals through the body. They tell cells to grow, divide, and store energy. That becomes a problem when abnormal cells are already present. Some cancer cells have far more insulin receptors than healthy cells. That means they respond more strongly to insulin signals. So when someone lives in a pattern of frequent sugar spikes and chronically high insulin, the body may be sending too many growth signals into the system. This is why liquid sugar is especially concerning. It's one of the fastest ways to create a high insulin, high glucose environment. And here's what makes this harder to ignore. Large population studies have linked sugary drinks, including fruit juice, with higher risks of several cancers. That includes breast cancer, colorectal cancer, biliary tract cancers, and others like liver and pancreatic cancer. Now, to be fair, these are associations. Association does not prove direct cause. But when the biological explanation lines up so well with what the studies show, you should pay attention. So the takeaway here is not that one glass of juice ruins your health. The takeaway is that frequent sugary drinks should not be a normal daily habit if you care about lowering cancer risk. Water should be your default. Unsweetened tea is a better choice. Coffee without loads of sugar is better. Whole fruit is better than fruit juice, because whole fruit comes with fiber, and fiber changes the whole metabolic response. Now let's move to a much bigger pattern: ultra-processed foods. This is where the modern food system has changed the game. Ultra-processed foods are not just foods that were cooked or packaged. These are heavily industrial foods, made mostly from refined ingredients. Things like packaged snacks, fast food, processed desserts, many breakfast cereals, frozen meals, and foods with long ingredient lists that barely resemble real ingredients from a kitchen. These foods are built to be cheap, convenient, and hard to stop eating. They're designed to taste amazing, but they often create the same internal conditions cancer cells like. First, they often spike blood sugar quickly. Second, they tend to keep insulin elevated. Third, they promote chronic low-grade inflammation. Fourth, they can damage gut health. And fifth, they push better foods out of the diet. That last point matters more than people think. When your diet is full of ultra-processed foods, there is less room for foods that protect you. Less fiber, less vitamins, less minerals, less phytonutrients, less support for your immune system, less support for your gut bacteria, less support for normal inflammation control. And all of this adds up. Studies have found that as ultra-processed food intake rises, overall cancer risk tends to rise too. Colorectal cancer risk in particular appears to climb sharply, and that is especially worrying because colorectal cancer is increasing in younger people. Again, studies like this show patterns, not perfect proof, but the pattern keeps showing up, and the biology behind it makes sense. If you want one simple rule here, make most of your food look like real food, food your grandparents would recognize, food that grows, spoils, cooks, and has a short ingredient list. That alone moves your diet in a much safer direction. Now let's talk about another category people do not think about enough: heavily salted and preserved foods. This includes foods that are highly salted, pickled, or preserved in ways that can irritate the stomach lining over time. Why does this matter? Because repeated irritation matters. High salt intake can damage the protective lining of the stomach. Over time, that can lead to chronic inflammation, and chronic inflammation creates a more dangerous environment for cancer development. Some preserved foods also contain compounds called nitrosamines. These compounds are known to damage DNA, and DNA damage is one of the first steps in cancer development. This is one reason stomach cancer has historically been more common in places where heavily salted and preserved foods are eaten often. So this is not about never touching pickled food again. It is about frequency. It is about not making extremely salty preserved foods a constant part of your diet. Now we need to talk about one of the most debated topics in nutrition: processed meat and red meat. These are often thrown into the same conversation as though they are one thing. They are not. Processed meat includes foods like bacon, sausage, hot dogs, deli meats, salami, and similar products. These meats are preserved, cured, smoked, or chemically treated in ways that change the risk profile. And this is where the evidence is strongest. Processed meat has been consistently linked to higher colorectal cancer risk. It has also been linked with increased risk of other cancers. The reason is not hard to understand. Processed meats often contain nitrates and nitrites, and in the acidic environment of the stomach, these can form nitrosamines, which are known carcinogens. So processed meat is the bigger concern. Unprocessed red meat is more complicated. There are studies showing associations between high intake of unprocessed red meat and colorectal cancer, but the link is weaker and more debated. This is where people start arguing because nutrition research is messy. Randomized trials are stronger for cause and effect, but they are hard to do with cancer because cancer takes years, even decades, to develop. You cannot lock people into perfect eating patterns for 20 years and control every detail of their lives. So researchers rely a lot on observational studies, where they follow large populations over long periods and look for patterns.
These studies are useful, but they come with limits. People who eat more red meat might also eat fewer vegetables, less fiber, more processed food, or have other lifestyle habits affecting the outcome. That is why the red meat debate never seems to end. But here's the part I think matters most. The effect of red meat may depend heavily on the rest of the diet. In many diets, more red meat means less fiber, and fiber is one of the strongest protective factors against colorectal cancer that we know. Fiber helps regulate blood sugar. It feeds beneficial gut bacteria. Those bacteria produce compounds like butyrate, which helps support colon health and reduce inflammation. Fiber also helps food move through the digestive tract more normally. So when someone eats red meat in a low-fiber diet, that may create one kind of risk. When someone eats red meat in a fiber-rich diet with beans, vegetables, potatoes, legumes, and other whole foods, that may look very different. There was even a study where people ate a large amount of red meat and markers linked to DNA damage in the colon went up. But when resistant starch, a type of fiber, was added, those markers returned to baseline. That's huge. It suggests that context matters. So I don't think the smartest message is red meat is always bad, never touch it again. I also don't think the smartest message is eat as much as you like and don't worry. The better message is balance. Eating red meat every day is probably not wise. Eating red meat once or twice a week, especially as part of a diet rich in fiber, is a far more reasonable approach. Now let's go one layer deeper, because it's not only what meat you eat, it's also how you cook it. When meat is grilled, fried, charred, or barbecued at high temperatures, harmful compounds can form. These include heterocyclic amines and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. These compounds have been shown to damage DNA, which is the last thing you want more of. So, how do you reduce that risk? Don't burn your meat. Don't char it black. Avoid constant high-temperature cooking. Pre-cooking meat before grilling helps reduce time over direct heat. Marinades made with herbs, garlic, onions, lemon, or vinegar help lower the formation of harmful compounds. Leaner cuts also help because less dripping fat means less smoke and less contamination back onto the meat. So even here, cooking method matters. Now, when you step back and look at all of this, a clear pattern starts to emerge. The biggest issue is not one magic food. It's the environment your diet creates inside your body. Do your meals constantly spike blood sugar? Do they keep insulin high? Do they increase inflammation? Do they damage the gut? Do they crowd out fiber and whole foods? Do they expose your body to more compounds that damage DNA? That's the real question. Cancer doesn't usually appear overnight. In many cases, the body moves toward or away from disease through repeated daily patterns, and food is one of the strongest daily patterns you control. So what should you do with all this? Start simple. Drink fewer sugary beverages. Stop treating fruit juice like water. Cut back on ultra-processed foods. Don't make processed meat a daily habit. Be more careful with heavily salted preserved foods. Eat more fiber, more beans, more vegetables, more legumes, more whole foods. If you eat red meat, keep it moderate, pair it with fiber-rich foods, and cook it carefully. That's not extreme. That's not fear-based. That's a practical, sane way to lower risk. Because the goal is not perfection. The goal is to make your body a less welcoming place for cancer to grow. And that starts with what's on your plate. If you found this helpful, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.